Hello gorgeous peeps, hope you're keeping well. I'm Chris from TechSpert and I'm here today with the TCL 10 Pro, a mid-range smartphone coming to the UK for under £400, so less than the price of the new iPhone SE 2020. But despite that, you still get a 6.47-inch AMOLED display with full HDR10 support. You get a quad lens rear camera with 64 megapixel primary shooter, all kinds of great specs. I'm going to get it unboxed now, get it all set up, and take you on a full-on tour of the hardware and the software so you know exactly what to expect if you decide to grab yourself the TCL 10 Pro. And for more on the latest greatest tech, please do subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers. Yoink. Alright, okay, there's the TCL 10 Pro. So let's just pop that aside for a second, just have a quick scout in the rest of the box, see what else you get. So a portkey pin device to actually get your SIM in the wee blighter. And I'm hoping you get a nice bit of condom case action in here. You do indeed. Lovely stuff. So you can just wrap that around your fresh new TCL. And as you can see there, quite a funky bit of design on it as well. We'll slap that on in a bit. Then the rest of it looks pretty straightforward as well. You've of course got a USB cable Type-C in order to charge up your smartphone, and here is the plug adapter as well. Nice bit of 3-pin effort for here in good old Blighty. Hooray! So good times. Let's get the TCL unsheathed and see it in all of its raw naked glory. Now, first impressions of the TCL 10 Pro, definitely very positive indeed. It's got a very premium look and feel to it. As you can see there, the screen sort of tapers around the edges, and then the back end tapers as well, so it meets in quite a nice sort of almost sharp point along the edge, although it doesn't feel sharp when you're clutching it. It's a nice comfortable grip. I'm definitely getting serious OnePlus 8 vibes off this thing, which is great because obviously the OnePlus 8 is considerably more expensive. So if you want that sort of premium look and feel, but on a tighter budget, then this could be the way to go. And it's also on the 177 grams as well, which is quite impressive. Definitely one of the lightest smartphones that I've wielded lately. My heart did sink a little bit when I read the color was ember grey. That's the only color option available. But to be honest, it looks quite sort of sleek and stylish. It's not too business-like. And I like the fact that it's a matte finish on the back end, despite the fact that it's constructed from glass as well. It almost looks metallic. It's got that lovely sheen to it, and it seems to be quite resistant to fingerprints and scuffs as well, which is good. And touch wood, the TCL 10 Pro should prove nice and hardy, but just in case, you do of course have that slipped in cover as well, which you can just slap on there nice and easy. As you can see, it's quite funky. The slogan actually has a little space for the logo to sit neatly in the middle. Good stuff. And of course a big old gap for the many camera lenses, 4 in total, plus 2 LED flashes actually on separate ends, which is quite cool. Only thing I would say is that that cover does not seem very firmly attached at all. It feels quite flimsy, like it would just fly off as soon as this thing basically hit the floor. But you know, at least it's a bundled extra. All good. Right, let's see if there is any juice in the tank. Yes, there is. Brilliant. So I'll get the TCL 10 Pro all set up now, and then we'll take a full-on tour of the rest of the hardware and the software. Yay! And before I forget as well, the TCL 10 Pro is a dual SIM device. As you can see there, it's a double-sided SIM tray. The second SIM slot can also be used for a micro SD memory card instead. So it can either be dual SIM or single SIM with micro SD. Right, so the TCL 10 Pro is all powered up. I've logged into my Google account. I've got all my apps downloading in the background. So now let's have a bit of an explore. So there's a bit of Android 10 action here on the TCL 10 Pro, but it does have the TCL UI, very imaginatively titled, slapped on the top as well. So that changes up the general look and vibe of the thing. You can immediately see that something's up when you flip into the apps tree, and as you can see there, by default the apps are all organized by the type, which I find a bit messy and not particularly helpful, to be perfectly honest. I'm so used to the alphabetical organization now. Thankfully you can just swap it back to the more traditional and everything is bright and rosy again. And you'll also see here in the app section that unfortunately you do get an awful lot of crapware pre-installed as well. So stuff like booking.com, which I frankly do not want, so let's uninstall the hell out of that. We've also got some app duplication on the go as well, because as well as Google Chrome, you've also got TCL's own browser, which unfortunately you can't uninstall, so that's stuck on there. I've already got so many freaking file management programs that, yeah, I think I'm basically going to be about as organized as it's humanly possible to be. You've also got lots of support tools as well. So for instance, you've got a direct access to TCL's support online management. And that app can also diagnose any issues with your phone and just gives you contact details and manuals, all the good stuff. You've got Optimize, won't take a genius to figure out what that does, but it just frees up the memory, makes everything run nice and smoothly. And the Smart Manager tool as well, which as you can see there, nice and reassuring. Excellent, everything is good. Yes indeed, if only it was. And this basically just provides fast access to various settings like the auto start feature, so which apps are allowed to start up with the phone, your battery shenanigans, memory, and of course which notifications you actually receive from your apps. And if you dive on into the TCL 10 Pro settings, you've got access to the usual great Android 10 features, like for instance a good bit of dark mode. So let's get that turned on right now. Boom, that was nice and fast. And as you can see there, that affects everything from the Google search bar to the Discover pane as well, and of course all of your Google apps should now be in dark mode too. And one of my personal favorite features as well, got a bit of gesture navigation action there. So as you can see, with that active, you can then go back with a quick swipe from the side. You can go back home by swiping up from the bottom and then swipe and hold, and you've got access to all of your recent apps. And of course, you've got all the other features that you would expect here on the TCL 10 Pro, the likes of NFC support, got Bluetooth 5.0, a bit of dual band Wi-Fi and all that shenanigans. Of course, got full access to the Google Play Store for downloading new stuff. As for actually getting into your TCL 10 Pro, well, there's an in-display fingerprint sensor down here near the bottom. Just tap your finger there. Not the quickest of scanners in my testing so far, but certainly seems responsive enough. Just stick your finger on there, and after a second or so, boom, you're in. And it also supports a bit of face unlock action as well, so you can just tap that power button, it'll scan your mug, and that actually seems quicker than the fingerprint sensor. Haven't seen a raise to wake on there, but as you can see there, you do get a bit of always on display action, which is nice. And around here on the left edge of the TCL 10 Pro, you've also got what they've termed a smart key. Give that a quick push. As you can see, it loads up the Google Assistant by default. I'm not sure if you can actually change that to an app of your choosing. I've had a quick flick around the settings, can't see anything in there. In the advanced features, you do have some great bonus stuff like a game mode, bit of one-handed mode action too. Though somewhat confusingly, it says that you activate the one-handed mode by hitting the icon in the notifications bar. But if you actually go in the notifications bar, there is no icon for one-handed mode, and I can't see any way of actually editing the icon layout either. I've tried long pressing, doing all kinds of stuff. That's just actually for managing the notifications themselves. So if anyone knows how to do that, definitely let me know below. I'll have to do a bit of Google searching, I think. Anyway, back onto the hardware front, and as you can see there, now that the phone's switched on, you can truly begin to appreciate that gorgeous AMOLED display. It's a 6.47 inches and nice and spacious. As you can see there, stretches edge to edge, actually curves around the edges of the phone, just like the OnePlus 8. So again, keeping up with that premium vibe. There's a dinky wee nipple notch up top, but very, very subtle indeed, barely intrudes on that screen at all. And you can actually hide it from view if you dive into the display settings, and then there's a notch option in there. You've got full HDR10 support on there, and certainly just from a quick glance at some Netflix content and the rest, it seems absolutely stunning stuff indeed. Nice deep blacks, realistic looking colors, great stuff. And it's a full HD plus resolution as well, so as you can see there, visuals coming through nice and crisp. I'm really liking the colors on this display as well. They're coming through nice and punchy, but not to an extreme degree or anything like that. Everything just looks really nice. Definitely should be good for your bit of anime, stuff like that, if you're a nerd like me. Of course, if you jump into the Next Vision app, you can actually play around with the display settings. So as you can see, if you're not a fan of those more vibrant, punchy colors, you can make things a bit more gentle, a bit more easy on the eye. And there's even an SDR to HDR upscaling feature, as you can see there, which I'll definitely be giving a full testing out. As for the audio, well, unfortunately, it's just a mono speaker output. You don't get a stereo speaker set up here on the TCL 10 Pro. But let's just boost that volume up, see what it's like.
Maximum HDR gaming settings, while the 240Hz touch response means that your every swipe and poke is instantly registered.
So yeah, it seems a little bit tinny on that top volume. Certainly reasonable clarity, so you should be absolutely fine watching a bit of Netflix while you're doing the cooking, something like that. Certainly wouldn't want to listen to music or anything like that though, that's for damn sure. But as I mentioned before, you've got full Bluetooth 5 support, and there's even a headphone jack up top as well, which is great. Something still missing from most premium devices, so that's a serious bonus. As for the performance, well, it's not one of the top end chipsets as you would expect for a sub £400 price point. What you get is a Snapdragon 675, which is a platform that I haven't seen in many smartphones at all, certainly here in the UK. It was in the Moto Z4, I believe. I think a couple of mid-range Samsungs and Vivos, maybe potentially a couple of Xiaomi's, but it's backed by 6 gigs of RAM, and so far, touch wood, seems absolutely fine. It's still busy setting itself up in the background, but certainly no pauses when I'm swiping about the place. It'll be interesting to see how it copes with the likes of good old PUBG, so I'll be giving that a full testing out, ready for my in-depth review. As for the battery tech, well, it's a 4,500 milliamp cell stuffed inside, so hopefully touch wood should keep you powered up all day, no problem, even despite the spacious AMOLED display. Oh dear, it's optimizable now. Not everything is hunky-dory as it was before. Need to clear up a bit of memory and stuff by the looks of it. Phew, there we go, back to 100. But it's quick charge 3 support, so it won't be one of the fastest as far as the recharging goes. And storage wise, it's 128 gigs, but you can expand via microSD up to another 256. Now let's finish up our tour of the TCL 10 Pro with a look at that quad lens array camera tech. And in no particular order, because I'm not sure in which order they're actually distributed, you get a 64 megapixel primary lens, you get a 16 megapixel ultra wide angle lens, you get a 5 megapixel macro lens, lens, blur, and a 2 megapixel low light lens as well, which I think is just used for video, but I need to double check that. So as you can see, quite a complex setup. As soon as you dive into that camera app, you're immediately inundated with all kinds of virtual buttons and sliders and different modes and everything. So yeah, quite a lot to get your head around, but hopefully with a bit of playing around should become quite intuitive. As you can see there, you can tap there to flick to a triple lens mode. I remember having to play around with this at IFA last year. So as you can see there, you can take a picture with the lens that you decide works the best for that given situation. Quite a handy way of skipping through them. Otherwise, you've got fast access to the ultra wide angle lens right there, and you can also dip into a bit of zoom action like so. You've got lots of different modes to have a play with. So for instance, good old portrait mode to get a nice bit of bokeh action behind your subject to really help them stand out. You've got the super night mode as well, which doesn't actually use the low light lens. It uses the primary lens, which I've figured out is this one here right on the right hand side. So I guess that just takes a bunch of different exposure shots and then merges them together like your typical night mode. And that's the result in this case. Gonna have to remember to turn off that bloody awful watermark as well. And you've also got a pro mode if you want to dive in there and manually piddle about with the likes of the ISO level, the white balance. Doesn't look like you can shoot in RAW format if you want to edit on the fly, but apart from that, all good. And then if we go all the way back into more, as you can see, there's just a bunch of other stuff, including, of course, good old macro mode if you want to take lots of up-close pictures of ladybirds or whatever. And if we dive into the video mode, as you can see, just as many confusing options. You've got some sort of running mode, which I'm assuming is like a super stabilization mode. You've got a microphone speaker up here to just mute stuff by the looks of it. You can shoot video with that ultra-wide angle lens if you so desire. And as you can see there, you can shoot up to 4K resolution footage at 30 frames per second. And if we flip around to the front-facing camera, it's a 24 megapixel selfie cam, so hopefully you can shoot some nice crisp images. You should have the likes of the portrait mode and everything to play around with as usual as well. Things looking a bit soft right there at the moment, but see how it goes. I'll definitely be testing that out in full again for my in-depth review of the TCL 10 Pro, so stay tuned for that for all you need to know. And there she blows, that is the TCL 10 Pro full tour there, so hope that was helpful if you were thinking of giving it a purchase. Definitely one of the most premium looking smartphones around that sort of price band. I really do like the look of it. Could be tempted to think it was a OnePlus 8 if it wasn't, of course, for the little nipple notch up top instead of the pinhole camera. But yeah, great stuff. So hopefully the performance, the battery and everything will hold up well. See how that camera tech holds up as well. Stay tuned for my in-depth review for all you need to know on that. Please do subscribe and ding that notifications bell for more on the latest and greatest tech. Cheers everyone, love you.